drama means adaptations, drama means secret crushes, and drama means a roller coaster of trauma and tears.
Drama means piercing, movie shows and all between. Laughs and talks every day with Mel and Ryan. Come and play.
Hi, welcome to Drama Means. Today we're talking about the 2025 Korean BL drama Secret Relationships and the 2025 Thai BL drama Top Form.
And the theme of today's episode is better than the original. Because so many times you hear people say, well, the movie wasn't as good as the book, or the TV show wasn't as good as the manga it was based off of. Well, in this case, the source material is actually not as good as what the dramas did.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with saying that I didn't know anything prior to Secret Relationships until the drama started airing.
Like, you didn't know it was based off of a source material.
I did because when they were promoting it before it started airing, I knew it had a source material, but I didn't really think to go and read it first. But then they aired the first 2 episodes. I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. And I didn't want to wait, so I went back and I read the webcomic.
So is this a case where you were waiting for the next episode to air and you had a bit of the impatient bug by you and you were like, no, I don't know what's happening in the story?
Exactly. So I went and read the webcomic and I was so horrified. And I really felt like maybe I made a mistake on going back and reading it, because it put me in such a place where I'm like, oh, I don't even want to watch the drama anymore.
Well, that is an interesting point, because sometimes that does happen to me too, where if you look at the source material and you don't understand why they read this and then wanted to make a drama out of it, even if they made it into something good, like, why did you look at this piece of crap and go, we got to tell this story? Like, there's so much more out there to do.
I'm sure there are tons of fans of this webcomic. I read it and it was extremely toxic, where there was no motivation behind any of the decisions that were being made, and the characters were not likable and also illogical, in my opinion, that I'm like, do I want to go back and watch the drama? It just, I don't know. I was put in a very I don't know. And I kind of put it off a little bit, and I went and finally I finished it. And I do have to say that Secret Relationships, the drama itself, in my opinion, is better than the webcomic.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that the people who adapted it, they made the characters more likable, a little bit more easy to sympathize with.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the webcomic, you see these characters and you're like, why? Who actually does this?
Now, was it a symptom of the format, or, being a manga or a webcomic, sometimes you have to shorthand some things when you're in a comic book and stuff? Was it that part of the problem, or was it just badly drawn characters?
I'm not even sure if it's because, when you serialize a webcomic, and I believe it was on Webtoon, and it's very based off by chapter,
mm-hmm.
right? And I can't remember if it was on Webtoon or Tappy Tunes that I read it on, but it's with Tappy Tunes, you're very okay, you buy chapter by chapter.
Right.
And honestly, so if you're submitting chapter by chapter, the longer that your material is, the more money you get.
Right.
And so I don't know if they just really drawn it out because it's just it'll make you more money if you have more chapters, right? So I'm not sure if that's it or not, but the characters themselves, Don's character, for example, in the webcomic, his parents come to his workplace and basically like kind of create like the scene where they need money, and they paint Don as like this heartless person because they feel so bad for disturbing his life, but their health is so bad, and Don's basically cut ties with them and like refuses to like help them with money when he's doing well in his job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which in that you're like, wow,
what a jerk.
Yeah, this character's like, what a dick, right? But in the drama, they made it so like just the dad shows up and he's this gambling addict. Right? And all the money that Don has already helped him with has been like gambled away.
Right. So they basically put him in a position to be, well, Dad's a loser, and I'm trying to help you, Dad, but you can't help yourself, which makes us like the character more than just being a selfish prick who goes to work and forgot about his family.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's like, it has that moment where like he has helped so much and he's finally like, like that line has been crossed and he can't possibly go on with it any longer.
I want to talk about something because a lot of people will ask me when they're trying to become new writers or whatever, like, how do you make your characters likable? And there's a lot of answers to that question, but one of the things you can do is make your characters relatable. And so just in this example, like a person who has left home, moved to the big city and forgotten about their parents, and is basically like, screw y'all, I forgot about where you are and who you are, and it don't matter, I'm doing my own thing. That's not very relatable. At least not if you're a decent person.
Yeah.
Right? But what is relatable is trying to help someone who can't help themselves and feeling like put upon, and you just finally hit a breaking point. Like we've all had that in some way or another. So that's very relatable. And so when you're thinking about writing your character and making them likable, like put them in a situation that you would make the similar decision. And if you find your characters making wacko decisions that you would never make yourself, you've kind of lost the relation to your character. And now they're not a person anymore. They're just a thing. And then people aren't going to go, wait, what? Why? Why is he such a jerk to his dad? Why is he such a jerk to his parents?
Yeah, especially when in the comic it was like, they have health issues, right? And they can't help but like they aren't really able to work very much because of their health, right? And then when you're like, really, you're not going to help your parents because they are in bad health? Like that is.
He was straight up Ebenezer Scrooge, like, fuck Tiny Tim. I'm just trying to do my job.
So it was just like little things like that. And then also Don basically gets like dragged along by these two people from college that like manipulates him, and with the pretense of that they both love him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but the thing is, they both want to covet him, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's not really that, like, yes, they have an infatuation with Don, but then it's just about coveting him. But then they're both like worried that the other, person, is gonna like get Don. So Jae Min, who from the beginning we think that Don has had this like amazing 10-year crush on him, right? And but while they were in college, Jae Min has realized that Don actually had feelings for Su Hyun, right? And so he comes up with the idea, and he's worried that Don's gonna like end up with Su Hyun. So he comes with the idea that he approaches Su Hyun and was like, "Hey, Don has the thing for me. You're just wasting your time. But really, if you pretend to date me and like we're a couple, then I promise that I won't take Don away from you."
Wait, what? This makes no sense.
That exactly, like that idea, it itself makes no sense whatsoever.
So guy A is wanted by guy B and C. And so guy B goes to guy C and is like, we should date, even though we both want guy A.
Yeah, but they don't really date. They just pretend like they're dating.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna get you what you want.
Exactly. And it's just like, it's so weird. And then, like, okay, so guy B decides that this is a good idea. Then why would guy C
agree?
Yeah. And only just because, oh yeah, he thinks that Odan actually likes Jaemin, so like it's better for him that Jaemin doesn't like flirt or like pursue Dawn, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, right? And the thing is, secretly, during this pretend relationship, Su Hyun and Dawn actually sleep together.
Okay.
Right. And this is the webcomic.
So going back to something you said though, like, you know, when you talk about the formatting of a webcomic and they're released kind of chapter by chapter, week to week, like I find it very difficult to write anything not knowing where I'm going. Like I couldn't just set out to write something and then just write it chapter by chapter and hope that I get somewhere good. And I don't know, like I would assume that most of these chapters are written beforehand, or at least a good chunk of them are written, and so then you're releasing them week to week. So it's not like I write on Monday, post on Tuesday. You know what I mean? Because that would explain why it's such a mess if you're just trying to like write yourself out of this box that you started in, and then you're going, I think at the end I want this generally, but I don't know how to get there, and I don't know how many chapters I'm doing. Like, I can't imagine trying to write something that way.
You'll be surprised. But like maybe this started out with like maybe they had 10 chapters.
Right, and then it gets popular, and then they have to feed the beast, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I gotta write something this week and post it because otherwise my fans won't go to my site and then I won't get paid.
Yeah. So the webcomic was such a complete mess. And also like Don's character literally like can't say no to either Jaemin or Su Hyun.
He's a doormat.
Yeah. But like to the point where like he gets essayed a lot. You know?
Ew.
Exactly. And so I'm just like but then sometimes he takes his like anger out on Songhyun, and it's just like he's the only one that hasn't done shit to you. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it like in the webcomic, Don's character is just not that likable. And that's why when I read through the webcomic and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like why is this good? Why does it have readers? Why do people just like toxicity? Like I know some people really like toxicity, but this is like disturbingly toxic.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But it also just, again, it sounds like it's a bunch of things kind of spaghettied together, trying to make it dramatic, but then leaving logic just out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. But luckily the drama, like they changed a few things. They changed Don's character to be a little bit more like I'm gonna put my foot down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even though there are some like still little like thread of similarity from the webcomic to the drama itself, the drama itself is so much more enjoyable and like a journey that you can like, yes, you do see that he does get manipulated by these two men, and he is worried for Songhyun that Su Hyun is gonna like hurt him because he's violent, right? So and they have that in the webcomic, but it's so like over the top, right? And the thing is they even changed Songhyun's character. In the webcomic, Songhyun is very like gives a lot of ultimatums, and like in one moment he's like, I'm okay as long as I'm with you, I can handle everything, I can deal with it, and then the next minute he's very like, oh, I can't handle it, I'm gonna like leave him, I can't, like all this stuff, right? He's very wishy-washy, whereas in the drama, Songhyun's character like is more true blue. Like he's like, okay, this is it. Like I do have my concerns, but I'm gonna be there for him.
Right. I mean, they took these, base characters and looked at ways to actually make them humans.
Yes. That's like the main thing is the emotions are all there and the acting is actually really great in it. A little like, Suyeon's character is a little like over the top. The character has to be over the top, so the actor has to be over the top. And the situations are super over the top. And there's like at the end there's a lot of self-harm and like in the webcomic the ending is so like ridiculous that like um Dawn just like realizes like Jae Min like has a thing for him and then he realizes that Jae Min's gonna like do some self-harm and he does like he threatens Dawn with like suicide and then like Dawn kind of just goes along with it and they go off to like like a vacation like their little Jae Min's vacation home or whatever and then proceeds to be like essayed by him.
Gross.
Right? Yeah. And then finally at the end he like walks away after he's been essayed. That's the webcomic. The drama is Jae Min basically kidnaps Dawn and then like decides that they're gonna die together.
Oh, nice guy.
Right? But what is good is in the webcomic, like basically Dawn just like gets essayed and then he walks away and he doesn't look back and it's raining and then somehow um Seong is outside and he's like not waiting for him, but like was like kind of looking for him, and then they just so happened to like run into each other on the street, and then Song Hyun like brings Dawn home, and then he's like, oh, he didn't look back because if he looked back and saw Jae Min, he would definitely go back to him, kind of thing, right? If you had seen his face or whatever, and so. And so
I think you learned the wrong lesson there.
I know, right? And then also like Su Hyun's character doesn't do shit and he just like randomly goes back to the like states and like decides that he's going to marry some girl that his mom had like set up for him and it was fine and like you never see him again kind of. And it was just like kind of a weird like ending that like really fell flat. Whereas the drama is Dawn gets kidnapped, Jae Min threatens to kill both of them. Su Hyun and Song Hyun are searching all over, and actually, Su Hyun is the one that realizes Jae Min has a vacation home, and they go there and they come and like save Dawn, right? So like Su Hyun actually like redeems his himself, his character, and so you're like, okay, he's not as bad as like we wanted to really hate him, and he's not a great character anyway, but like at least he redeems himself and then he like learns to let go after saving Dawn, right? And then Song Hyun is there too. And so the ending, at least, like you get this like big climax, this very like scary. Your villain character redeems themselves, and then your main lead, the love interest, is there for your character, your protagonist, right? So there's like structure, there's character development, there's character growth, character arc, all these things that the web comic lacks.
Well, it's also just characters being active in their own stories, not just waiting for things to come to them and sitting around and then someone goes, hi, I'm here. And then you're like, oh, good, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. So this is an example like, well, I regret reading the webcomic completely. I'm so glad the drama did a better job at, showing this story and actually making it likable and enjoyable thing to watch. It's just, yeah.
I don't know if I would have finished it. I don't know. If I would have gone back and to the source material and it was that bad, I'm like, wait, but why am I watching? Even if the other version's good, what is it here that I'm watching anymore? Like, what am I invested in? And maybe, the drama is good enough that now I'm invested in that. But oh man, it might have colored my.
It did.
Like, full disclosure, I have not watched these, so this is a random episode that I have not watched the material we're talking about. But like, oh man, I don't know if I would have gone and done that same thing.
It did definitely color my judgment on the show. Because when I went back and read the webcomic, I was like, okay, I don't want to watch the show anymore. I'm done. Like, and it took me like, oh, but I don't know. Like, I really enjoyed this first 2 episodes, and I noticed that they had changed things already, for the better. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stick with it. And I'm glad I did. And the acting was good in it, and so I did watch it, and luckily the drama, did a really good job of adapting this story.
I mean, it's another thing we talk about often, which is, studios or networks or whoever, let's call them buyers, like look into this IP, and they have whole departments of people who are recommending, like, hey, we should look at this comic book that's really popular. Hey, we should look at this piece of IP that's really popular. And a lot of times the people making the decision to buy the stuff don't really know what they're buying. They know it's popular. Oh, this thing has 50,000 readers a week. Like, we want in on that. And so that's a big problem with our industry right now, is that the people kind of at the top with the money in their hands don't have a love for the material as much as they have a love for the business model. And then you bring in a writer and go, hey, we've bought this awesome IP. Write us a script. And I'm sure the writer looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, that, great. And in this case, did their best and made it a serviceable story. But it's a very difficult position to be placed in as a writer, to get this, pile of crap, and then they're like, make it shine because it's really popular. So if it doesn't shine, it's obviously your fault.
Yeah. But then I'm like, oh, why is this popular? And this is like, this is my friend and I. My friend is also a writer, and we have a lot of issues. I know a lot of people really liked dark romance, which like she and I like kind of don't understand it, because I
Sure.
just, yeah. And some people really like it. And then my other friend, who's like an avid reader, she's like, it's fiction, it's fine. Like, obviously if it's real life, it's like ew, but then since it's fiction, it's okay. And then it's like, but it's like hot and sexy, and I'm like, what is it?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I mean, I can never figure out, like, in this world we live in right now, and social media, and like videos that go like massively viral, and you're like, why did 6 million people like this stupid thing? like there's some things I get, panda bears falling down hills, that's hilarious, I'll watch that all day long.
Yes.
But other things, I'm like, why is this popular? Why is this a trend? Like, why is this shaking your ass video a trend, but this other one that's very similar isn't? I don't understand the difference, but someone online is like determined that one is successful and one is not.
Yeah. So there's that.
But we have another example, which is Top Form, which was also based on
it's a Japanese, it's a Japanese manga, but I actually only watched the anime version, so I don't actually know how different the anime version is to the manga, and then how Top Form is different to the manga.
Okay, so wait, I'm lost. So there is a manga that was then turned into an anime.
Yes.
It was then turned into a live-action drama.
Yes.
And so you have only watched the anime and the drama. You haven't gone all the way back to the source of the source of the source.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Great.
So, based off of the anime, I felt like a lot of the emotions are lost in the anime. Like, in the drama itself, it's like And I do have to say, like, Boom and Smart's acting really makes this drama because they are so good. And those, like, deep connecting moments, they really hang a light on each feeling that they have. So I feel like the audience feels it more. Whereas, like, if you're watching the anime, it's like a lot of these emotions are kind of like told to you through inner monologue.
Right. It's a lot of explaining. It's a lot of like, this is what I'm thinking now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, what I do have a problem with is a lot of the anime is just themselves thinking.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot of Takato's like inner dialogue, right? And the what he's thinking, and his character is like a narcissist. So comparatively to Akin, Akin, you don't hear the inner monologue, and everything's just like seen through his acting and his concerns about him going from A-lister to like kind of declining in popularity, and then this newcomer coming in and kind of like outshining him, and then but he's like the newcomer that he literally was terrible at acting, and then worked with Akin like helped him become a good actor, and then all of a sudden become like take over his role of like sexiest man, and then like best new actor, and like getting the lead role, just like things like that. That's like, as an A-lister, you would be concerned, but it doesn't show that he's a narcissist. Whereas in the anime, Takato is totally a narcissist, and he like thinks lowly of everybody, and you hear all of the inner dialogue of like him just bagging on everybody around him. Right. So I feel like they made Akin's character again more likable and more vulnerable. And the thing is, in parts of it, with the anime, they try to show you like, but it's also like just said and told to you that Takato is likable, and he will like, make himself like seem bad just so that it'll help like take the attention off of like other people and stuff like that, right?
He's throwing himself on his own sword, I guess.
Under the bus.
Whatever, one of those metaphors.
Yeah. So we get that from the anime, but we don't feel it because it's just told to you. Whereas all the feelings and the emotions and the relationship is just so, you're like watching these people like develop these feelings firsthand. And then you're also like, there's a scene in the really beginning where Akin helps Jin basically find his acting chops, right? And like like he was shooting kind of this ad or the scene where like he has to have this emotion, and he couldn't get that emotion until Akin pull him to the side and like just like made him feel it, and then he was great after that, right? And so that connecting moment comes back again when like Akin's watching TV, and Jin is doing an interview, and like everyone's like, oh, was Akin like, bullying you? Stuff like that. Like, how is he on set and stuff? And Jin is literally like, without him, I would be as popular as I am today. And that moment, that connection moment, like they kind of have this moment where like they hold their breath, and then I find as the audience, you're also holding your breath while you're watching it. And that is like how great their acting is. And mind you, I've seen Boom and Smart act in other things before. But honestly, Boom was like kind of minor characters, and the only other thing that where he was like the lead in, the show itself was so bad.
Right. Which doesn't help.
Yeah. So like I don't realize how good of an actor they are, right? And then they're in this, and you're like, wow, like, why didn't I know this before? And it's just like sometimes you just need that chance, and a good project needs to come along.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to showcase your talent when you don't have a material that, you know, brings it out of you. Like, how else are you supposed to showcase acting talent? And they say that a lot of, like, from a writing perspective, when you write a script, you really have to pay attention to who's going to want to play this character. You know, you write a character that's boring and straight laced, and then you turn to yourself and go, well, who am I going to cast in this that's going to want this part? This part has no teeth. There's nothing for the actors to chew on. And so that's another thing when you're like actually constructing story, like making sure that your characters are fully fleshed and have, you know, complex things that actors would be excited about playing. It's a big thing when you cast guest stars on shows. Like, you've written this guest star and then you can't get anyone that wants to do the role, or like anyone of name, because they're looking at it going, what, I'm going to go spend the week in New York to play a guy who's got 15 lines and he's just kind of boring, and like, I want to put that on my reel? Like, that's what I want to put out there? No, I'm trying to like make my career here, you know?
So, I'm not going to talk about Top Form without talking about the honey scene.
Oh, even I know the honey scene.
It is like, I watched that scene and then I immediately text Alexis and was like,
Alexis is another drama podcaster.
yes, which we've done episodes before. This year
People
we
haven't
haven't.
seen that one. It's been a
Okay,
while.
okay. So Alexis from Drama Queen, we've done collab episodes before where we normally are watching the dating shows together. But I text Alexis and I'm like, you have to watch Top Form now. I don't care how you watch it, you gotta watch it. And then she like apparently went on Instagram and found all of the clips, and she goes, "Are you talking about this scene?" I go, "Yes, but you have to watch the drama itself." But yes, this scene is so artistic, but sexy and beautiful and really fucking dirty. Like, I
Artistic. It's like saying you go to Hooters for the wings. Come on.
no, no, this scene is an artistic rendition of sex, right? It is a good sex scene, right? But in like a really beautiful way. And it's so like, you're like waiting for that moment, and when it finally comes, it's like, wow, this is great, right? And then like the even stop it. I don't usually talk about sex scenes,
Who
right?
comes first?
Stop. But like, we've watched a lot of BL, and as I said before, a lot of BLs now have been putting a lot of sex scenes in it.
There seems to be two kinds of BLs. There seems to be the sex light BLs that are a little tamer and a little more romancy. And then on the other end of that are the BLs that are one step from just straight up softcore.
Yeah.
And then this one seems, again, I haven't seen this one, but it seems like they are kind of straddling those two, where they're going pretty, like, you know, sensual and into the sex scenes. They're embracing those, but they're also paying attention to the relationships and the feels. So it's not just sex, a little bit of chatting, sex, a little bit of chatting, you know?
Yeah. So this is what I feel like is, albeit it's a life of, celebrities, but this is like life. This feels like real life in terms of like when the emotions are happening and then when the sex is happening. And there are two separate like main sex scenes in this. The honey scene and then the breakup sex scene, right? And the emotions are so opposite of each other, and it's both so like engaging in terms of like, yes, they're having sex. One is like filled with passion and love, and one is filled with sorrow, and still that love is still there between the two. And so, but it's sad, and but you feel it, and your heart, it's like heart-wrenching. And it's such a great way of showing this contrast of sex can mean different things and have different feelings, you know? And they really showcase that in Top Form. Whereas, like, there's some, like, I know some people just watch certain BLs just for the sex scenes, but like for me, everything has to have a meaning.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same whether it's a sex scene, whether it's an action scene, whether it's a chase scene. Like, it has to mean something. Otherwise, it's just people running, jumping, driving, or fucking. Like, who cares?
Yeah. So that's why I called it art. Like, I feel like Top Form is trying to be art.
I mean, I will give you the artistic part, but I can't concede this point. Honey and sex. All I can think about when I see this scene is how sticky. Who's cleaning this up afterwards? You're gonna do that in your own house?
Okay.
Like go get a hotel and let someone else clean this up. Honey, you know how sticky that is? This logistical nightmare. I mean, don't even get me started. Like, what are you sleeping in that bed afterwards? You can't walk to the bathroom. It's all over the floor too. How much honey would you possibly need? Honey's really expensive. Like, that's where my mind goes in the honey sex scene. Like, this would never happen in real life. Nope. Too complicated.
Okay. I see where you're coming from, because I also was like, fuck, it's in the carpet. Then you gotta throw that shit away. Like, it's not gonna wash out.
No, honey's not washing out anything.
And this is exactly why they make gels and lubricant and stuff, because they're water based, and then you can wash it out. And
they didn't use that. They used honey.
I know. I'm just saying.
Illogical.
It's not illogical. It's just like.
You know what it is? Young people thing. Felt like a good idea. But in my older, wiser years, I'm like, that's not going to come out of that carpet there, Sonny.
This reminds me when I was younger, and my friend and I were talking, and she was trying to like be sexy, and one of the things was like she did whipped cream and pancakes, and I'm like, wait, so you cut up pancakes and put it on his body and then eat it off with like whipped cream, right? And I'm like, God, that sounds like a lot of work. And also, like, is that sexy though?
No, it's not. Pancake, just the whipped cream part, like that. We all saw Varsity Blues with the whipped cream scene, the whipped cream bikini scene. She puts whipped cream on her parts and walks out, and now she's just wearing just whipped cream as a bikini. And that was like, whoa. When you're in high school, you were like, whoa. But now I'm like, nah, that would like melt, and then it would drip all over the floor,
and then ants,
and then we just got bugs. And
okay, we're being too old, first of all, and too logical.
Just saying. These are the things I think of when I see this scene.
Whatever. Anyways, it was hella sexy and very artistic. And like when I think of artistic sex scenes, I think of 3 different BLs. Blooming, which was amazing for their sex scene. It's very like underrated, but it's more like shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 8 Cents. That one is like, it's not even like artistic, more as like it's very like beautiful. And then Top Form.
And I will say, just as someone who has been on set for sex scenes, I do have to take my hat off to shows who do it well, because it is very difficult to do. Like, it is not a normal thing for 2 actors to get together and be naked in front of the crew and perform this. Like, they're actors. Like, this isn't a pornography. This isn't like what they do. They do the acting and the emotions, like you're saying. Like, oh, the performances are really good. They're really good actors. So now you're asking actors to put all of their humility aside, and it's like, it is difficult to do that. And like, typically we have very limited crew. You have closed sets. You don't. A lot of times you won't even have monitors, because like normally on set we have big monitors that anyone can just come and look at, and you have monitors for only people who have to watch. Like the director and the producer and the director of photography and maybe the camera people, and that's it. But still, it's so intimidating. It's one of the most intimidating things for actors to do. So when you pull it off and you do it well, I do have to tip my cap. It's hard.
Yeah, and there's sometimes like the case of the giggles.
Oh yeah, I mean we have actors that are friends, which I mean that's what's so crazy about some of these BL couples is that they spend so much time together as friends, whether or not they're dating in real life or they're just kind of shipping in real, whatever they're doing, they spend a lot of time together, so they're friends. Have you ever made out with just your friend in front of a group of people? That would be extremely awkward.
Yeah.
And so I've been on set where two really good friends had to make out and they could not stop giggling because they're like, this is so stupid. Like we're like, she that was like, I can't look at him without giggling because him being sexy makes me laugh. I've known him since we were like 13.
Yeah. So, there's that. So I had to talk about it. Like there was not talking about top form without talking about the Hyung
Yeah,
scene.
I get it. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're moving past that, and I do think that Junta's character in the anime is like kind of really aggressive, you know, and a little just like not the most like consent kind of character.
You're getting back into the toxic kind of.
The thing is, his character's not really supposed to be toxic. You know, they like literally paint his little like wings because he's such an angel and everyone likes him and he's so happy go lucky. But then, like, whenever he approached Takato, he felt like more aggressive than he should be.
Mm.
So, it's kind of weird. And so but then Jin's character in the drama is that happy-go-lucky, like angel-like. Like he gets a little mischievous, but it's more like, oh, he's mischievous and not like he's, you know,
yeah, predator.
Yeah. So there's that, and so there are things that I just prefer in top form. And the thing is, something that we did lose that I did miss a little bit is in the anime, you kind of got like Junta's point of view a little bit more. You heard his, you know, inner monologues and what he's thinking, and so you kind of jumps back and forth of like how they like how Junta's perspective was when they first met, or like certain incidents that happen, you see Junta's like perspective, and then in another episode you would see Takato's perspective. So I kind of liked that, but um they kind of don't do that in the drama, but it's also like, rather than it's anyone's point of view, where like it's mainly Takato's point of view throughout the whole anime. This one we're the outsiders and we're in third person, and we're looking in to their lives. And so we're not like, we don't get swayed of like whose perspective we should be following, which I do think that is better for storytelling.
Well, it's the one thing that anime does that sometimes turns a lot of people off of anime is they do not care what we would call who has POV powers, like which characters are allowed to have point of view. Typically in live action dramas, we're very strict about which characters we will give point of view powers. And so if you have a love story between two people, we don't just randomly cut to their parents by themselves, like unless those characters are important enough to warrant the attention, right? The parents are only in scenes our leads are in. In anime, they don't give a shit. Like they will give POV inner monologue to the janitor, like that just walked in the room. Like they don't care. Like, and it's one of those things that if done well, it kind of works. Like when you watch something like Haikyuu, and they're giving you all these perspectives, and it rounds out the story. It kind of works, but it's not something you can do in a live action because it feels so weird.
Yeah.
To like you said, focus too much in on a particular point of view when we're trying to kind of almost be a little voyeuristic here.
Yeah. So the structure of top form is it kind of doesn't give you much time to breathe. It basically starts with every episode is kind of happy, you know, a little bit lighter, and then by the end of the episode, you are like, it's like gut wrenching. and it goes on like that every single episode. And so the structure is very like high, low, high, low, high, low, like total roller coaster. But it gets to the point where you're like, especially towards the end, you are like, oh, they just broke up. It's gut wrenching. Okay, they're back together. Oh, his grandma dies. Like, it's just so, like, as an audience, you're like, fuck, I need some, like, rest. You know, I need emotional rest. And this top form does not give that to you. Like, there are cute moments at the top of the episode, and then by the end, you are, like, feeling it.
You're just waiting for the bad thing to happen.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I just need an episode to breathe.
And they were like, no thanks. We don't do that here.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I don't really know what they're going to talk about, but I think they mentioned a season 2 of Top Form. I actually think it's, like, pretty complete, and I don't really need a season 2 of it.
Yeah, it's tough with ones like this where you're like, well, where do you go? Because you've kind of run the gambit of all the emotions that can happen, right? So you're like, okay, now what? We just do it again?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you mean, too, of kind of starting in a high note and then going to that low note. Once you do that a handful of times, we get so used to that pattern that the punch outs mean less and less as you go.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to the end, maybe the end of the show isn't as impactful because we were waiting for that kind of shoe to drop. And now you're accustomed to the formula. Like, you kind of need to play with the audience where you give them this formula for a while and then you turn it on its head and they go, wait, I was used to that formula. And by now we've zagged and the audience has zigged. And now by the time they catch up, you zig again and you're always keeping the audience off balance.
Yeah, I do feel like that with Top Form. The ending did kind of falter for me. And I don't know if it was just because I wanted like a higher like climax, you know? Stop. God damn it.
You walked right into that one. The honey scene was their climax.
No, that was the beginning. No, but like after I felt like the way they handled the getting the rights back for Akin's grandma's rights for this play. Right? Basically Jin's company buys out all the material. Right. The rights to remake all of Akin's grandma's like projects. And Akin was like, okay, I want to direct this, like my grandma's project. I want to rewrite it and, you know, kind of like an homage to my grandma kind of thing. And you know, the monkey wrench in the situation is that Jin's company buys all the rights, you know, and the thing is, first of all, I don't really understand the reasoning behind Jin's company hating Akin so much, to the fact that they're like doing things to hurt Akin on purpose. Like that seemed really weird to me. But also like it was really anticlimactic in terms of like how they just like got the rights back and got to, you know, it's just kind of amount of begging and you know. And then towards the end when basically Akin decides to supposedly retire into like behind the scenes, it just felt a little like bland. So for me the ending did feel a little more bland than I feel like it could have been.
Well, we know it was all downhill from the honey scene, so there you go.
It was not. But I do think it was downhill from their breakup.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. But all in all, I really enjoyed both dramas and much better than the original. And I can't say the anime is the original, but like it did come before. So for me, I'm so glad that the dramas just like did better.
So are you rating the source material and then the drama?
No,
or are you just going to rate the dramas?
I'm just rating the dramas because, like, honestly, like, if I rated the source material, it's just low.
Right. Okay. So not good.
I hated the webcomic of secret relationships. It's like
one of the worst things.
It was one of the worst things, and maybe you could call me a prude or whatever, but I just found it really, like, not pleasing and very disturbing and super toxic, and it's just not enjoyable. Like, for me, it's like a 0 or a 1.
Right.
You know, and then Dakaichi is like better, but still, it's
not good. And that's the name of the anime.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad. It's just not. I don't feel it. I don't like it's good for me. It was more like background noise is better than like an actual something like where you would pay attention to.
You know what's funny is that inner monologue. I think it really works good for the emotion of anxiety. Like when characters are worried and we get to like peer into the characters and they're like you talk about any of the action animes where like the character isn't sure if they can win.
See, I hate that too because like, oh, it drove me crazy in Attack on Titan.
Yeah, but they overdo it. I'm talking about like you have the even My Hero Academia or like Haikyuu where it's like, oh my gosh, can I do it? Can I do it? And they're like trying to figure out like how to win, and they're not really sure if they can win, and then they have to like come together and win. I think those emotions are better played in the inner monologue. I think like romantic moments are harder in inner monologue because it makes you sound like either schemy or petty or like you're just kind of like finagling for your romance, where when an actor is performing the romance, then it's just sort of like you can feel it. And it's like, I just don't want to be in your head for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so my rating, honestly, both secret relationships and top form, the dramas, is in the buffet line for me. And you cannot rate it because you did not watch either of them.
I will rate the honey scene in the buffet line. It's just where the honey should stay. Stop. Keep it out of the bedroom.
It wasn't in the bedroom.
Messy.
It wasn't in the bedroom. It was in the living room.
Even worse.
On the rug.
Next time your parents come to visit and they have to like sit in that living room?
No, that rug is totally thrown out. There's no way. There's no way that honey would have washed out.
Must be nice to be rich. Just throwing out your rugs whenever you have sex.
They're celebrities. They are rich.
Just saying.
So this week, I am going to recommend... I don't actually know if I want to recommend just an author that his source material is just always better than the adaptations.
Oh, so we're going the opposite way with the rec. We're going back to this.
Or I'm just going to recommend one of his books, which is Tinong Papo, right? But his stories are adapted and remade like every other year. Like, it's just, they're always going to remake them.
We just watched, this was the one that Donnie Yen just made, well, not just, but a couple years ago made Sakura.
Yeah, and so Sakura is the bad version of Tinong Papo.
Yeah, the Sakura was not good.
Yeah, but we also watched, and we're gonna do an episode of this, but we also watched the Condor Heroes.
Right, The Legend of Condor Heroes.
Yeah, starring Xiaozhan. And so...
which is the last version of that, because they've done that before.
Yeah. So I'm going to recommend the Tinong Batbo that has become the legend in the Chinese entertainment industry. It is arguably the best adaptation of the story. And it's called The Demigods and Semi-Devils, starring Felix Wong, Benny Chan, and Louis Fan. It was 1997.
Ooh, going way back.
Yeah, it is an old TVB drama.
Which means it's going to be in 4:3 and not 16:9.
Exactly. So, but it still holds up though. But it is the best acted. The story was really good. So I definitely recommend checking that out. It is somewhere out in the ether. Like we randomly looked for the Legend of Condor Heroes on YouTube, and we found it.
Yeah, they're a little bit hard to find, and especially when in good quality. But
or if you have the TVB app.
Oh yeah, if you have the TVB, whatever that streaming app is called.
It's just the TVB like Jade or whatever, and they have like different like North America or like the different.
Yeah, they have an archive there. You can go through and look at old stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know how much that they have. If they have everything, but they do have a lot.
I mean, their demigods and semi-devils are pretty like up there, along with like funny enough, Felix Wong is the star of the demigods and semi-devils, and also the star of the Legend of Condor Heroes.
There you go.
So definitely check that out. Much better than Sakura.
Poor Sakura.
You can't win them all. Sorry, Donnie Yen.
Yeah, he wins a lot. Did not win this time.
Yeah. Which is sad because it was the movie that he said before he dies he wants to do. He wants to like remake it or adapt it, and it fell quite horribly. Anyway, that is it for us this week, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening.